Anyone up YouTube, the sun is out behind me, the sun hat's on, and that can only mean one thing. We're coming towards the end of the season and the last games that many clubs across the EFL and the National League will be playing this season, and playoff time as well for some clubs in the National League and South. So it's all very exciting to predict who's going to get promoted. There's a few final day jitters around, I imagine. Who's going to end up in the playoffs? Who's going to be relegated? We're going to go through all of them in today's video. We're going to start off with some midweek action because there's still some game in hands to be played. And tonight, we've got one of them, Burton Albion versus Wigan Athletic. It was a huge result last weekend for Burton Albion as they secured a 2-1 victory against Cambridge United. And that all but mathematically confirmed safety with a vastly superior goal difference. But Gary Bowyer is very level-headed at the moment. He's saying it's not over until mathematically they are safe. And they are. He's very right about that. They can do that tonight up against Wigan Athletic, a team which is on good form at the moment, but throughout the season, their results have only warranted themselves to be in 16th as this video is being recorded. I'm going to have to say home advantage and Burton Albion to succeed. Another great escape is what they're coming to be known for now, isn't it? 2-1 to the Brewers. Solihull Moors versus Rochdale, a team in the National League. The two teams in the National League at each other. Solihull haven't got anything to play for anymore. They are consigned to a mid-table finish. Rochdale, neither. They are, well, they can technically... Actually, no, they can't mathematically now, sorry. They are now in the playoffs, confirmed no matter what. They will just be trying to get some good form to get into that playoffs. They're more than likely going to finish fourth, I would imagine. But they don't want to let their standards slip for 1 minute. I'm going to, however, say that because there's nothing really much rounding on this game, 2-0 Solihull Moors, I feel like there's still a little bit of shock for Rochdale to come. A team which seems to have a ton of games in hands over recent things because of their good EFL trophy run. It is the mighty Birmingham City, who have well and truly been one of the greatest teams we've ever seen in the EFL. One more point and they match that magical Reading season a few seasons back, if we remember that far ago. I think it was in the Championship, wasn't it? Well, Birmingham City do have the chance to break the EFL record for the most amount of points. 105 points, no one can take that away from them. And they've done it in a style which actually has been relatively calm. They've not scored an exhilarating amount. 80 is impressive, but it's not like 100 points what you'd think. But it's just they've managed to grind out results. And I think that's the important thing, which is the only thing that Blues fans care about at the moment. So we are going to say with this one, we're going to continue their winning momentum and become the best team in EFL history. 2-1 to the Blues. Welcome to the Championship next season. I very much hope Derby can play you. Mansfield Town versus Peterborough United. The other team to have reached the EFL Trophy final was Peterborough United. They're travelling to Mansfield Town. It's 17th versus 19th. Mansfield is now mathematically confirmed safe. They've not been great though of late. Neither of Peterborough. Peterborough had 3 draws on the bounce, and I'm going to say it's going to be made into 4. A 2-all draw here. So yeah, on to some Premier League ones. We've got Nottingham Forest taking on Brentford. Now I'm hoping Forest crumbling carries on going. We've seen them bottle the FA Cup when it was realistically they could have quite easily made it to the final, considering how bad City have been this season. And now they could potentially bottle the Champions League. Currently resting in 6th, with albeit a game in hand. I'm going to have to say it's going to be a draw, and we're going to continue seeing the capitulation of Forest. A 1-all draw against Brentford. Come on, Brentford. Even win for me. That I'd be even happier with that. But yeah, I just don't want them to get Europe come the end of the season. Manchester City versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. I'm going to have to back Man City. They've come back to winning ways now, and they certainly firing on full cylinders. I know Wolverhampton Wanderers are the most informed team in the league, which is a mental statement to say. I don't think anyone predicted that they would ever be the most informed team in the league. But they are having won the last 6 games on the bounce and a really long unbeaten streak beyond that. I think that's going to come crumbling down. 5-1 to Manchester City at the Etihad. I just have a feeling at the moment that Manchester City are going to come out of absurdity and claim that 3rd spot finish. I mean, why it took them so long to get into gear is beyond me, but they're fully firing now, aren't they? Aston Villa versus Fulham. Aston Villa did capitulate as well in the FA Cup semi-finals against Crystal Palace. It ends the season, really, but they're now fully devoted attentions will be on trying to seal that final Champions League spot, I would imagine. Very much a possibility that they could still get into that Europa League spot as well. So they need to win at Villa Park here against Fulham. And I think they will do so. 3-1 to the Villains. I know they have lost their last league game and lost them at FA Cup, which will dent confidence, but they need to get back to winning ways sooner rather than later. And it would be a huge confidence boost to beat 8th place Fulham, which must be commended this season, considering how... you don't often see Fulham in the top half of the table, let's put it that way. Everton are taking on Ipswich Town. Now, Ipswich, I think, now are mathematically confirmed relegation. But with the pressure off, they can go out with a bit of pride. And to be fair, taking on Everton certainly is one of them ones which I can see them getting a result from. Well, I'm going to back the Tractor Boys to win this one, 2-1 at Goodison Park. Leicester City are taking on Southampton. Well, let's hope this isn't another 9-0, because Southampton are known for losing 9-0, including against Leicester City. I don't think it'll be that heavy, but I do think Leicester dominates Southampton here. A 5-0 win for the Foxes. Southampton have been truly dreadful this season. And let's just dent that goal difference a bit further, shall we? Arsenal versus AFC Bournemouth. Arsenal will be wanting to make sure that they at least end the season in second. But it's the only thing really going for them at the moment. Not done well, particularly in the Cups. Not really done well in the Europe stage either. And in the league, they can only really settle for second. But they're going to have to try to anyway. They're taking on Bournemouth, who are unbeaten in 4. Admittedly, there are 3 draws in that. I'm going to say that the Gunners are going to win 3-0. Okay, on to the ones which actually count now, because we are approaching the final games of the season in the Championship. Very exciting to go through these. Bristol City are taking on Preston North End at home. This is an important one because Bristol City are now, because of a defeat to Leeds, only 1 point within side of the playoffs. Preston North End have had a truly dreadful run of form with 4 losses. They're now just 1 point of the relegation zone with goal difference against them because Hull City have 1 less goals. In terms of goal difference, 1 less goal difference. So that means that they are higher up, if you know what I mean. 1 better goal, to simplify it. I think this is going to be a difficult one. I think both of the teams are going to be fully going for it. I'm going to have to say 1-1 draw, which does make things quite interesting because that doesn't remove Derby from mathematical safety. So we're going to carry on keeping an eye on that. As a Derby fan, I'll be watching all them scores around the grounds. Well, Burnley versus Millwall. This is going to be an interesting one because Burnley and Leeds are still in a title race with only goal difference separating them two. Millwall, however, are only goal difference away from the playoffs. I do unfortunately think Millwall do just about bottle it. It feels very, very much like 2018-19 in terms of the Millwall and Middlesbrough just not being quite good enough to make the playoffs, and Frank Lampard currently in 6th. However, I'm going to have to say that Burnley do win this one 2-0. So we'll have to wait and see what the Leeds result I've got predicted to see who does win the league. Coventry City versus Middlesbrough. Very interesting one here. I think either of these teams could win the playoffs on the final day, and Middlesbrough have a better goal difference. They just need to win against Coventry and they will get into the playoffs, I imagine. But it's not that easy. It's going to be a very exciting game. And I think yet again, Middlesbrough fold to a Lampard side. 3-0 to Coventry City, and then to get into the playoffs. I don't want to do this one. Derby County versus Stoke. 18th versus 19th. At Pride Park, I'm dead nervous about this one. I'm really, really nervous. We've won the last 2 games. It wasn't the most impressive game against Hull, but we absolutely dominated against West Brom. We got 6 points out the last 2 games. We got what we needed to get. And we're at home to a sellout Pride Park. I'm really nervous about it because on paper, Derby are probably slightly on favours to win, which doesn't do us any favours, really. The pressure on the final day is palpable. It always is. I'm going to jinx us, but I'm going to have to say it. 2-1 to Derby County and us to stay up. Come on, you Rams. We're all behind you. Every single person in the black and white army will be wishing you players to win wherever we are across the world. We've got Guatemalans supporting Nathaniel Mendes Lang. We've got people from Norway supporting Langas. We've got people in Derby. You've got me in Newcastle. You've got people who are from, is it Gambia, where Ibu Adams is representing? All over the world. We've currently got people hoping for Derby to pull off that miracle. Come on, you Rams. And hopefully I've not jinxed it. Touch wood. And yes, the table I'm currently recording this in is made out of wood. Norwich City versus Cardiff City. Cardiff have been confirmed relegated, so I don't really think there's going to be much on this game. Norwich haven't got anything to play for either. I think Norwich dominate this one. 4-1 to Norwich City at home at Carrow Road. Nothing much in that game. Plymouth Argyle versus Leeds. Never say never, because it has happened before, but they would need an astronomical goal difference change. And against such a good Leeds side, let's be honest, Plymouth are pretty much going to be down. And for the title, I think Leeds do claim this title. A 2-0 win for Leeds United. It's not going to be good enough. Plymouth are going to be relegated back to League One after only a second season at the Championship. Portsmouth versus Hull City, a fascinating one. Portsmouth are safe, so they don't need to worry as much. They're on good run of form. Hull needs, essentially, if they'll stay up if they get a point and Preston North End lose, or Luton lose, or either of them lose. But they need at least a point. And up against Portsmouth, I think they're going to do it. I think Hull are going to come out flying out 4-0 to the Tigers. They'll have to wait and see if other games are good enough. Which at the moment, I've not predicted Luton's, would put Luton in the relegation zone. So we need to see, examine what Luton's score is to see. So we're going to wait on a bit longer now to Sheffield United at home to Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn need 2 points to get into the playoffs. Goal difference is slightly marginally in their favour, but that doesn't really matter too much. It's only a goal. They've won the last 4. They're unbeaten 5, Blackburn. Sheffield United have had a really rocky road at the moment, but they're also going to need some good form coming into the playoffs. I imagine they've been resting a few players of late. It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an exciting one. At Bramwell Lane, we're going to go 3-2 to the Blades. It's going to be very, very interesting to see. I think from what I've based this on, Coventry and I think it would be Coventry and Bristol City, which are the teams which make it into the playoffs from them ones to decide. Because I think, West Brom are too far away now. Sunderland are hosting Queen's Park Rangers. I've heard that Sunderland have been resting some players, but they have lost the last 4, which is not good run of form to be on coming into the playoffs. I think it is going to be a 0-0 draw. I just have to say that QPR aren't the greatest team, but they're a very mid-table team at the moment. And so a 0-0 draw doesn't look good for Sunderland to come into the playoffs in, though. Swansea City versus Oxford United. Gary Rowett's men are mathematically safe. They're 4 points off safety, so they don't need to worry about this coming to the final day. Swansea did lose their last fixture, but they won the last 5 games before that. So I'm sure they can be excused an off day. And Swansea, I do think, do come and win this one. 1-0 at the Liberty Stadium to Swansea City. Watford versus Sheffield Wednesday. The most mid-table class. You got 12 versus 13th. You couldn't be much more mid-table than that. Watford have lost the last 4. Not really much to play for, to be honest. I'm going to go 1-0 Watford. Final confidence at the end of the season, just because it's at home. It doesn't really matter. And the final one, West Bromwich Albion versus Luton. I'm sure everybody's now looking at the Luton versus West Brom one. I'll be looking at this one throughout the game, as well as Hull, Preston, and of course Derby's game. I'm going to be keeping an eye on all of them and seeing what does happen. I'm going to have to say this one's going to end a 0-0 draw. West Brom haven't done any of the really relegated teams any fate or relegation picture zone teams. They've done them all a great deal of favours recently. They lost to Derby. They also, I believe, lost. Well, we've got a 0-0 draw against Cardiff. It's just not been realistically a great amount of time. I mean, a 0-0 draw is what I'm going with. They got a 0-0 draw against Cardiff. I think they'll do the same against Luton, which would confirm relegation for Luton Town. I believe if I've done the maths correctly, that would confirm relegation for Luton Town, which I would have to say I don't have anything against the Hatters. I just think they purely unlikely. They've not been, in terms of in this season, I do actually realistically think the team which would deserve to go down out of those teams in the bottom 18, it would be only fair for Luton to go down. It would put Stoke in a horrendously bad position, actually, because if we actually smash Stoke and the rest of the games go as I've predicted, they could actually end up getting relegation on goal difference. I don't think it'll happen, but if we do batter Stoke like a 6-0 or something, 6-7-0, then they'll be relegated on goal difference. But it's not going to happen. So that's purely for the birds. We don't score enough anyway. We don't have a really recognised striker as such. We've got Jerry Yates, Harness, and Jackson, none of which I would say are the most prolific in front of goal. So we're not going to batter them 7-0. So I think Stoke can probably relax. Hopefully, they do a bit of relaxing. You'll realise, or you may notice that I've skipped out National League North-South playoffs on the midweek. We'll get to them. We'll do an amendment at the end of the video. On to League One, we've got Blackpool versus Bristol Rovers. So this is an interesting one because Bristol Rovers can still get mathematical safety. Only if Burton loses midweek. It is a heck of a goal difference swing. It's unlikely to happen. And for that reason, I am going to have to back Blackpool to win this one. 3-1 to the Seagulls, or the Tangerines, whatever you want to call them, up in the northwest, where every working class lad in the north makes his holidays. So yeah. Bolton Wanderers versus Stevenage. Bolton can't reach the playoffs. Simple as. They've not been good enough this season. I think, to be honest, there are times that I've really questioned Ian Evatt as being manager of Bolton this season. If you are a Bolton fan, let me know. Should you have stuck with Ian Evatt as long as you did? And obviously, you got Steven Schumacher now at the helm since January. Does he deserve to stay on, or do you want to get someone completely new into a club? We know Steven Schumacher is a good manager at this level. He did all right with Plymouth, but I don't think he's a championship manager for certain. The question is, do you stick or twist? Bolton fans, do let me know. Or maybe it comes down to the final game. I think it will be a dramatic 3-2 win for Bolton, but I just don't think he maybe has done enough to warrant himself staying on for next season. A reset is needed at that club. It really is. To have finished third last season and now not to even make the playoffs. It is only fair that questions will be asked of both the ownership ambitions for where the club wants to be, the managerial people. There's a lot of questions out there, and I know it got quite toxic at one point surrounding Ian Evatt, who I actually do rate as a manager, but I do think to this season does potentially warrant a maybe warrant a sacking. We'll go through my EFL and Premier League, who should have been sacked, who shouldn't have been sacked at the end of the season, after my end of season predictions review. In terms of, I'll go through the predictions I made at the start of the season, and then after that, I'll do my managerial one. Cambridge United versus Birmingham City. Birmingham will be home dry by then, and you'd expect them to win, but I'm actually not too sure. Pressure's off Cambridge now. They can't stay up. And I am going to say at home, one last hurrah, one last shot. Cambridge United to win 1-0 as they end there. It's been a fair few years now in League One, back to League Two, which does mean no Cambridgeshire derby next season. I'll be very interested to see how Cambridge do next season. Do keep hydrated. It is a very hot, I wouldn't call it, it's probably almost summer. I think it's the hottest or second hottest day of the year so far. It is really warm, 23 degrees, according to my computer. So yeah, Charlton Athletic versus Burton Albion. At this point, I'm predicting Burton will be safe, but if they're not, they're still going to need to battle for something. Charlton, however, they're safe, but they will probably be wanting to get home seeding. So a win would be helpful for Charlton in terms of home seeding in the second game. It's such a while that Derby's been in the playoffs. I can't remember if I've actually said that right, but I'm pretty certain the higher the team get the second game at home. So yeah, I actually think this is going to be a competitive 1-1 draw at the Valley. I just feel like Charlton, I don't know if they'll necessarily, their eyes may already be on the playoffs. So maybe not so caring about Burton, who are on a team who are they're in mixed form, but have done enough to ensure safety and be in a jubilant mood as a result. Huddersfield Town versus Leyton Orient. Leyton Orient needs something from this game to get in the playoffs. I think Huddersfield needs something to end their losing streak. They've lost the last 5. I think, again, a team which I'm really questioning what's going on at Huddersfield. Empty seats galore. You can see it all over social media. They've currently got an interim manager of Jonathan Worthington. I have no idea how long he's been in place for. Since the 9th of March. So for a month. I mean, let's face it, he's not been good enough as an interim head at all. Maybe sack the interim. But Michael Duff has clearly not done a good enough result as he's fallen out of the playoffs with them. It's very interesting because I think a lot of people would expect Huddersfield to have reached the playoffs come the end of the season, and they have not. I do think maybe a competitive 2-2 draw. It's been a disappointing season for the Terriers and a great one for Leyton Orient, who've been on a fantastic run of form as late as well. It's either them or Stockport, which I could potentially see claiming that promotion. But I really can't see at the moment all 4 of them teams are on absolute fire. So yeah, got a 2-2 draw. Lincoln City versus Wrexham. Wrexham have now confirmed promotion to the Championship. First time in the second division or the second tier since the 1980s. Now, of course, there's a whole lot of people going around, including myself to an extent, diminishing maybe the achievement of Wrexham, of saying that they just brought the way to getting promotion and stuff. And that is to an extent correct. They have brought their way to success, as have Birmingham. But also, you must say, it is still difficult to get promoted. League One does have some big teams in it. Already mentioned both Huddersfield and Bolton and Blackpool already. All 3 of them, I would say, certainly Championship quality. Wigan as well. They've not done great this season. And to find themselves on top of all of that into the automatic zone after only 1 season, good on them. Looking forward to seeing them next season. I think they may struggle a bit more with the Championship. It gets a lot more difficult of a Championship with a lot of clubs getting parachute payments. You also have teams who are, a lot more teams who are spending on gambles to get promoted, and it can end up in a sticky situation. As a Derby fan, I can all too much tell you what happens if you try and buy your way to victory in the Championship. It doesn't always end pretty. But I do think, that we won't take away from the happiness that Wrexham have at the moment for promotion. 4-2 to Wrexham up against Lincoln. I mean, let's face it, Lincoln won a good run of form until they lost last time round. And it's been an all right season for Lincoln, a mid-table one. I would have expected maybe a playoff at the beginning of the season, I think I said. But no, I don't mind where they finished. They do seem to do all right, don't they, Lincoln? I think they found their level. Mansfield Town versus Exeter. As I've already mentioned, Mansfield haven't got much to play for. Neither do Exeter, to be honest. I'm going to go with an end of the season high for Mansfield. 2-1 to Nigel Clough's men. Northampton Town versus Wigan Athletic. 4 points separating these 2 teams. Out of the last 6 games, Wigan have drawn 4, and we're going to make it another draw here. A 1-1 draw at Sixfields. Reading versus Barnsley, I think it is going to be a disappointing day for Reading. Barnsley have had a disappointing season, as has Rotherham, both of them. South Yorkshire teams, bitter rivals, have both had what I would consider a poor season for their own standards. I'm sure the fan bases do as well. Reading, of course, the pressure's a bit on them because they need to win. Well, they need to at least better Leyton Orient's result to get into the playoffs. So if Leyton Orient lose, Reading need to draw. If Leyton Orient draw, Reading need to win. So it's one of them things that I think the pressure might prove too much for the Royals. And of course, the stuff going on in the background as well. Is the players' minds fully on the playoffs? I'm sure it is. I'm sure they're fully focused on the game ahead. As a Derby fan, I can tell you that the dressing room camaraderie does sometimes do wonders for a team spirit. But I'm going to say 3-1 to Barnsley and Leyton Orient to go to the playoffs. I just think I'd love to see either of them get promoted, but Leyton Orient, they've not been in the second tier in decades, and it truly will be great to see them at this sort of level again. You've got Millwall as well, who will, let's say, get the playoffs. That could be an interesting game of Leyton Orient versus Millwall. Yeah, I just think it's a team which nobody really expects to get promoted. So it'd be a good, nice story to have. Rotherham United versus Peterborough. Teams of underperformance, I would call this match. There is 5 points separating the 2 teams. 13th place Rotherham, 17th place Peterborough. Both would have truly expected to be higher. Although I have seen some Rotherham fans say that actually the budget that they have is about mid-table League One, and that Paul Warne is one of the reasons why they overperformed so much. I mean, it's hindsight's a wonderful thing. You know, they are currently mid-table in League One. We can't ever know what would happen if Paul Wall wasn't at Rotherham. What we can know is that currently they've underperformed. However, I think they do run out as 4-0 victors in this one at New York Stadium. Rotherham have a massive rebuilding job to do next season to see if they can make a return to the Championship. It's going to be difficult. So, yeah. Shrewsbury Town versus Crawley Town. I mean, Crawley could potentially get safety at this point, but it may already be beyond reach. Let's be honest. I'm going to have to say this is going to be a 1-1 draw and Crawley to return to League Two, along with Shrewsbury, which have already been confirmed relegation for weeks now. It'll be very interesting to see if any of them do make an instant return. I think Crawley probably have the infrastructure around them to do more so. Shrewsbury, I don't think necessarily. They're looking for investors, of course, at the moment. The new Saints were potentially owner was potentially sniffing around them, and it would be interesting to see the rebuild that happens off season for Shrews, certainly. Wycombe Wanderers versus Stockport County. Now, this is an interesting one, 3rd v 4th. Whichever one wins this ends up taking on whoever's 6th place, which is, of course, I know it's not much, but it could potentially be an easier tie. And theoretically, if they get a draw and Charlton Athletic win big, we're talking about a 4-goal swing. A 6-goal swing here. But if they do, then Charlton Athletic can take that 3rd spot. So it's going to be an interesting one. But realistically, I think most eyes will be on the Stockport v Wycombe one. And I'm going to go Wycombe to win this one. It is at Adams Park, so home advantage. 2-0 to Wycombe Wanderers and to claim that 3rd spot playoff. I don't think it would be very interesting, actually. We could potentially have Wycombe versus Reading as a playoff semi-final. And that's somewhat a local rivalry. They're quite close to each other geographically. So that could be a really interesting one if that does happen. I certainly think that would be one of the ones I'd be more interested in if that was happening. On to League Two, got Accrington Stanley at home to Chesterfield. I think Chesterfield's season is going to be reduced down to maybe a just nearly season. They have got the goal difference in their favour that even a point would ensure that they do get into the playoffs. But I just think Accrington Stanley win this one 4-0. I can't tell you why. Weird things happen on the final day of the season. But I'd love, if Chesterfield get into the playoffs, Buxton are currently in the playoffs, Belper's in the playoffs, Long Eaton are in the playoffs. If we get 4 teams in the playoffs come the end of the season, we can stop the naysayers. We can say that Derbyshire have truly done a great season. Clay Cross Town got promoted as well. There have been some down stories. I mean, San Diego Town getting relegated potentially. A great escape, to be fair, for Gresley, as with Burton, although Burton's not technically Derbyshire, but I think most people would say that they look towards Derby as their nearest settlement. And also the relegations of Matlock and Mickleover have sort of put, and unfortunately, Ilkeston just missing out on the playoffs, have had some downers. So it's been a mixed bag in terms of Derbyshire this season. But we're talking about Chesterfield. I do think, a 4-0 win to Accrington. I do want Chesterfield to reach the playoffs. I just don't quite see it happening, unfortunately. Bradford City versus Fleetwood Town. I'm going to say Bradford City bottle the automatics at this point, with Fleetwood winning 1-0, which wouldn't do the Bantams any favours. Bromley versus Cheltenham. Nothing in this one, really. Bromley in 11th. Great season. I do congratulate Bromley. It's been a great season for them, which I think most people would have actually chalked up with them winning the playoffs somewhat unexpectedly, but it might have been a bit of a struggle for them to adjust to League Two. Absolute nonsense. And they're up against Cheltenham Town, which are below them, but on a similar run of form. We're going to go a 2-1 win for Cheltenham Town. Carlisle United versus Salford City. Carlisle are in 23rd. They are now relegated to the National League. like absolute sinking stone at the moment. They are going down and down on a downward spiral. If you're a Carlisle fan, do let me know what is happening at your club right now. It's very interesting to see a team that I would definitely say is a mid-table League Two team dragging down into the National League. It's not going to be great. They're going to have an away day to Truro City. Congratulations, Truro, of course. And Truro have got several long way days in the waiting of Hartlepool, Gateshead, and Carlisle, all really far away. But yeah, they'll relish the opportunity, I'm sure. But yeah, I think Salford do win this one because they do actually need the points to make sure that they get the playoffs. So yeah, 3-2 to Salford City. Colchester United versus Barrow. Barrow are on a really good run of form. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, but they're on a good run of form, which is always respectable. Colchester can still get playoffs. If they win and the teams above them lose, they could sneak into the playoffs. At one point, I potentially would have had them, but they lost the last two games, and Barrow on a good run of form. 4-1 to Barrow. Unfortunately, not quite for Colchester, but it's better. It's certainly a better season for Colchester United, and that bit of belief that I've had in them recently, maybe it's actually wearing off. Crewe Alexandra versus Walsall. I think it's not going to be a pretty game. It's going to be a pretty scrappy game. Both are on a horrendous run of form. A 2-2 draw, but because Bradford City lose, we'll have to wait to see if Notts County win. That could still throw things, but I think it could mean that we'll still get promoted. But we'll wait because we still got one more then critical games to go. Grimsby Town versus AFC Wimbledon. This is also an important game. 6th versus 8th. 2 points separating these two teams. That would be a great game to go to. It really would. I hope it's a packed out. Is it Blundell Park, the one which Grimsby's home? I can't remember. But yeah, I actually think this is going to be a real bore of a game. A 0-0 draw, which could be enough if Salford lose, but I don't think they will. So, yeah, disappointing season, but actually, I think quite a good season for Grimsby standards. Morecambe versus Harrogate. Harrogate in 20th. They had a few scares, and Morecambe, of course, relegated, having lost 5 in a row now. It's just a frustrating season for Morecambe because I'm not entirely sure where they've gone wrong. I mean, I could have told you a few seasons ago why they got relegated from League One. I don't know if the same thing is impacting them this season. Would love to know from Morecambe fans what is going on. It's now National League football. They're back to non-league. They were in non-league a while. So yeah, good luck for next season at the level below. I'm going to go a 2-2 draw here. Newport County versus Tranmere Rovers. We'll go Tranmere to win 2-1. It's 21st versus 22nd. Not much in it, but Newport are the worst team on form right now. They're both safe, but I think next season it could be a bit more of a struggle because they've not really had to fight too much this time round. Notts County versus Doncaster Rovers. This is an interesting one, as I mentioned earlier. 5th versus 1st. Doncaster do need to win to get the title. Notts County need to win to get automatic promotion. This could be a very interesting one. I'm going to go with home advantage to Notts County at the county ground, isn't it? Or is it something matters? I can't even remember. My brain is melting in the sun. 3-0 to Notts County to secure them promotion. I hope it doesn't happen, but maybe I've jinxed them, hopefully. Port Vale versus Gillingham. I think Port Vale win the league with a 2-1 win over Gillingham. Gillingham have now to play for. And yeah, I just realistically see Port Vale winning this one and winning the league. Welcome back to League One, both Port Vale and Doncaster. You've done it. You don't need to worry about the last game of the season. Be interesting to see the South Yorkshire derbies next season. Of course, Doncaster will be playing Rotherham United and Barnsley. All of them are good local rivals. And of course, there's been a good one this season, Grimsby Town versus Doncaster as well. They're not far apart. It's a very interesting part of the country, which have a good deal of lower league rivalries, which don't often get talked about. Swindon Town versus MK Dons. I'm going to back MK Dons to win this one, 2-1. It is the Paul Warne effect. They might do quite well next season, actually, with Paul Warne, I imagine. Give him a season to rebuild. It's been a bit of a disappointing season for the MK lot. But yeah, I reckon under Warne they can do a bit of a rebuild off-season. Brentford versus Manchester United. Let's be honest, Man United have had a season to forget. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw in this one, but I would not be surprised if I see Brentford as victors. Brighton versus Newcastle. Brighton are a team which they've sort of frustrated at times this season, because you think, they're going to get Europe, and then they've slid off. They're going to get Europe, and then they've slid off. So I don't think they're going to quite manage to get Europe, but I do think they're going to get a win against Newcastle here. I don't like to say it, but 3-1 to Brighton. They're at home as well. It's a long way for Newcastle to come. So maybe a bit of a fatigue in that one as well. West Ham United versus Tottenham Hotspur, 16th versus 17th. If West Ham win this, Tottenham gets 16th. Do you know how mental that is to be? Sorry, in 17th. Do you know how mental that is to be one place above relegation zone? They won't get relegated because the bottom three are being awful, but they have been pretty tragic this season. If there were some better teams which had come up, they could definitely have been relegated. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I really couldn't part these two teams at the moment. They've both been as poor as each other. But yeah, disappointing season for both teams, I must say. Chelsea versus Liverpool. Liverpool party on the streets of Liverpool at the moment. Scousers, if they're Liverpool fans, of course, will be partying in the streets. It's not going to be an easy one, this one, but goodwill will carry them forward. A 1-0 win to Liverpool. Congratulations on your title to the Reds. I think Arne Slot's done a great job, and don't let others try and diminish your title. It has been truly some good football to watch at times, and a good squad, and it's great to see a team other than Manchester City win it for once in a while, you know. And some argue that has tipped the favour into Liverpool being the biggest club in England. I am not going to enter that realm of debate. I will just leave that simmering for the comments. Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest. I do want Crystal Palace to win, but they've drawn the last two league games, and I think we're going to have a preferred here. A 0-0 draw. It'd be good for them to get a win, bring them some confidence to come into their FA Cup final, which I think everyone can say that apart from Manchester City fans, of which there's like 12, that they want Crystal Palace to win the FA Cup. It'd be great, you know. So on to Aldershot Town versus Yeovil Town. This is bank holiday Monday. Football, and yeah, on my days, May Day bank holidays come around soon, hasn't it? I suppose it's because Easter's been so late this year that we get bank holidays after bank holidays at the moment. But yeah, it's always exciting. I might make my way down to Gateshead versus Southend, which we'll predict later, but that will determine the last playoff spot. So that would be an interesting one, certainly. We'll see how my work goes. But yeah, Aldershot Town versus Yeovil. I'm going to have to back a 1-1 draw here. It's a nothing game. It's 16th versus 18th. There's nothing riding on it. Aldershot are mathematically up. Safe. So yeah. Altrincham versus Tamworth. 9th v 10th. Now, because of a way... neither of these teams can get it. It's unfortunate because both of them actually did try, and I think both of them have been great credits this season. Tamworth to win 2-1. I think it's been a great season, debut season for Tamworth to reach such heights in their first season. I thought they always would do because of how solid their defence was last season. But that's not actually been their defence which has been that solid this season. They've just managed to get results when they've needed to. So yeah, well done to Tamworth for doing so well in your first season. Braintree Town versus Rochdale. As I said, Rochdale are going to probably be a team which does finish in that 4th place. Braintree could still get relegated, but it would need a great deal of goal difference to force that. I'm going to go 1-0 Rochdale, and I do think Braintree will be safe. Eastleigh versus York. York haven't got anything left to play for. Congratulations, Barnet, on the title. We'll come to that later. I think Eastleigh win this one 3-1. York will definitely have their eyes firmly glued on the playoffs now and preparations for that, so might rest some players as well. AFC Fylde versus Barnet. As I said, congratulations, Barnet. The playoff heartbreak that they've had over recent seasons have finally been put to bed, and a return after a decade of non-league football to return to the Football League. Barnet are a great team. I mean, they've got some great facilities at the moment at the Hive, and it will be quite exciting to see them. A lot of London teams seem to be getting promoted at the moment. We got Bromley last season. Maybe that was just it. But there's certainly been teams that have been on the rise in London. It'll be interesting to see which ones rise up next season to take on the challenge, because it's certainly getting more northern facing. I'm going to go Barnet to capitalise the season off in style, winning 4-2. Fylde are relegated. National League North, typical yo-yo team. Gateshead versus Southend. The game I might be going to. Going to have to go for a 1-1 draw here, which does mean that Gateshead, because of how bad they've been recently, will miss out on the playoffs, and Southend to make it. I mean, Southend are the bigger club historically, I would say, and they are always a great credit. I saw them a few seasons back. Great numbers of away fans, and it'll be great to see them back in the Football League. Seeing Southend versus Colchester would be a good game to watch if you're down in the Essex way. It's a great derby. Hartlepool versus Forest Green Rovers. Hartlepool ending a mid-table season up against third-placed Forest Green. Now they're firmly on the playoffs, Forest Green, and I think we're going to have to back them to win this one. 3-1 to the Gloucestershire-based team. Maidenhead United versus Boston United. Boston in 17th, Maidenhead in 22nd. They need to win this, Maidenhead, to stay up. And results to go their way elsewhere. I do think Maidenhead win this one 2-1. So that does leave it slightly more open. They are at York Road as well, which would especially help proceedings. Oldham Athletic are playing Ebbsfleet United. We're going to go for a final shocker of the season. Why not? Oldham will probably rest players for the playoffs. We're going to go with a 4-1 Ebbsfleet win. Weirder things have happened. Solihull Moors versus Dagenham and Redbridge. Solihull ain't got anything to play for, whereas Dagenham and Redbridge do. They need 3 points to stay up, to be honest. Their goal difference is good enough to stay up, but they don't want to be relying on other teams losing. A 1-1 draw, which would mean that despite Maidenhead winning, I thought predicted, that Maidenhead will still go down. Now all eyes will be on the Wealdstone game. Sutton United versus Woking. Woking have done a good run of form recently, but they are travelling to Sutton. I think it'll be an exciting 3-2 win for Sutton. Ain't much riding on it, though, let's be honest. I'm going to say Wealdstone win this one. This is a game we're all looking for that. Halifax are confirmed in the playoffs and might rest some players, especially seeing Wealdstone have got a lot more to play for. 2-0 to Wealdstone, and Wealdstone to stay up. It'll be a mad end of the season, and I think deservedly Dagenham and Redbridge deserve to stay up, to be honest, based on goal difference. Scored much more and conceded a lot less. But they've just not been good enough in the second half of the season, and that is simply the case. Don't let your standards drop. That is the end of this one. I'm just going to quickly look through the comments. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Wednesday night. Looks like Roll will be leaving Wednesday after this season. It certainly does at the moment. I must say, Danny Roll has done an all right job with a Sheffield Wednesday team, which I don't think it's unfair to say is slightly over punching their weight. I think a lot of people would probably have predicted Sheffield Wednesday to finish the season roughly in relegation picture, not quite mid-table. Early shout for his replacement. Wouldn't surprise me if we try to raid Doncaster Rovers again, this time for Grant McCann. Grant McCann was in the Championship a few seasons back, wasn't he? He was with Hull. I don't know if I necessarily rate him the greatest. I know he got Hull promoted as League One champions, but he did also take them down to League One in the first place, losing. Let's not forget, he was the manager when that massive 8-0 loss that Hull experienced to Wigan a few seasons back. He also had a fair few seasons with Peterborough United. I could also see him returning to Peterborough again. But yeah, I'd say McCann is definitely, for me, more of a League One manager. So yeah, I would expect him probably to stay at Doncaster Rovers. He's been there before. He knows the setup of a club. I don't think that any decent names would even contemplate working for Chansiri. I would say you're completely right. He is a farcical owner, to be honest, and they're not paying wages at the moment. So I would be completely shocked, considering caliber managers that are potentially out there. I don't know if a team who has recently been promoted would be the ones to poach for, which obviously poses quite a difficult challenge in terms of managers that you would be after. You'd obviously get the same old standard Championship names that always get thrown into the hoop: Gary O'Neill, Steve Cooper, teams, managers of that sort of ilk. I don't know at the moment who Sheffield Wednesday could potentially go to. I would say a League One manager is potentially a shout. Ian Evatt is currently out of a job, as we were mentioning earlier. Would be interesting to see if he sort of makes the jump over. And of course, he did do some solid work with Bolton. I think he just needed a bit of new scenery, let's be honest. So yeah, I'd take a gamble on Ian Evatt. He's currently out of a job. So he wouldn't really be on my list. I'm just trying to think realistically. Yeah, up the Owls. Jamie Scared says, can we do a separate one for playoff games? We're playing Billericay in the playoffs tomorrow as a Dover fan. That's in the Isthmian League. I'm well aware about. The issue I have with sort of playoffs of that is that you end up talking, how far down the pyramid do you go? Do you go the next level down from the ones I currently do? Do you go 2 steps down? And then you're talking a lot more playoffs. I'm going to do the National League North-South ones. I'll write in the comment section down below, Jamie, what I think will be the playoff results for the other games down to Tier 10. Okay? That's a guarantee for you. So come back to this one at some point tomorrow, and I will have written it in the comment section. But I'm not going to dedicate a whole video to it. I don't have the time, frankly. And Wednesday Night finally says, I second that. Could there be a video predicting all of the playoffs from the Championship down to Step 3 of non-league? Second person to have requested that. Bit of an issue is that a lot of the playoffs down in non-league are taking place this week, as in starting tonight. So, in essential, no, I can't do it in one video. Previously, I have done predictions videos for the EFL in a separate video, and I might do that again because I can speak a lot more context into the EFL as well, having covered it a lot more detail. I have seen a lot of non-league in my life, but I don't know all the managers, all of that sort of jazz. I only know what I researched for the video, as opposed to just knowledge based off my head. That I know a lot about the EFL. So I will make the EFL as a separate one, and as I said, I'll make down to Step 5 playoffs in the ones which haven't already happened, because some have already happened down below. So yeah, check that out later. Diving into the playoffs, as I said, we'll be covering this. So yeah, at the moment, we've got some games tonight. We'll start with the National League North ones. I'm going to go through and say all my playoffs in one go, in a sense. So from beginning with the quarterfinals, and I'm just going to go through all of them and have the winners declared tonight. So I could be completely way off. The first one we got predicted is Lancashire-based Chorley are hosting Kingsland Town. The thing is with the games at this level, it's a one-off playoff at home of the highest ranked team. So I always enjoy that, actually. I think it's much more fun. That way, it means that the home side, like the higher league side, does actually get an advantage. It means that you don't just have the ridiculousness of 2 playoffs just for the television rights. It's a lot more exciting. It's settled on that day. We've got Chorley versus Kings Lynn. I'll go a little bit through a bit more than I would usually for this level. I'll discuss in terms of Chorley. They're a team historically. They went on a good FA Cup run a few seasons back. I still remember them playing Derby's academy. Let's face it, it was during COVID. And they're certainly a team that have been regular occurrences, I would say, in the playoffs over the last few seasons. They did win the playoffs back in 2018-19 before being relegated back again. They're a team that you look at the team in terms of purely on the basis of who they've got. No one really standing out. There's a few key ones. There's a Gambian international. I think it's Gambian international. Oh no, he's not. He's not made a cap. Mamadou Touré. You've got Cole Hall, who is a Bermudan international. But they've got quite an experienced side, it looks like, from a National League North. So yeah, I think, and then you look at Kings Lynn, they're also a team that they're definitely historically, they are a Phoenix club founded in 2010, but the previous Kings Lynn was certainly a great team. And I mean, they have recently been in the National League as well. So they got relegated from the National League back in 2021-22. So both of these teams have fairly recently been in the National League and know what the playoffs is. I just think Chorley win this one at home. I think it's Victory Park, if I'm remembering rightly. Yeah, Victory Park. So yeah, 2-1 to the Magpies. So the other one, Chester versus Buxton at the Diva Stadium. Chester spent big during the pre-season last time round. They're also a Phoenix club. They're a fan-owned club as well. They're certainly a team which I would say is on the up, and a team which has a club which is well worth a promotion. They also did all right in this season. They finished the highest of the 4 teams which are occurring right now. But I do think, I don't know at the moment. I just think there's some interesting names out there. Connell Rawlinson, if people remember him from Notts County, he played in the National League playoffs in 2023. So when they got promoted to the Football League over Chesterfield a couple of seasons back, he scored one of the penalties. So he's certainly somebody to keep your eye on. You've got players who are like, I mean, it's interesting. There's some dual registered players here as well, I've seen. Kurt Willoughby is a player who was at Chester before and did really well in that 2022-23 season. Not as well this season, but he's on loan. But yeah, okay. So that's sort of Chester. They're a team which a lot of people would be backing, I imagine. Well, as I do love Buxton, I, of course, back all the Derbyshire teams. You've got John McGrath as manager, who did a phenomenal job with Micklova, and just look at the fall off from Micklova since he left the club. They've spent only a couple of seasons, actually, at the in the National League North, and it is about time for that next stage on. But for me, it's very interesting to see how well they do, because they've the ones that they're the team which have snuck in, so to speak, into the playoffs, and I think that might just help them. 1-0 to Buxton. On to the semi-finals for that one. You've got Scunthorpe United versus Chorley. I think everyone can say fairly comfortably that Scunthorpe is a team that they think will absolutely wipe the floor and get to the finals in this one. And you wouldn't necessarily be wrong. I think Scunthorpe's history, their fan base, everything about them at the moment just seems to be great. But yeah, I think sometimes you forget that the playoffs isn't all about necessarily, not everything can go well. Andy Butler hasn't actually had a huge amount of experience as a manager, and that is one of the big question marks over it. Has he actually experienced the playoffs? They've got a pretty big squad, Scunthorpe. Got players like Will Evans, if you know him from back in the days of Chesterfield. He did a pretty good job back in the day with them. You got Andrew Boyce, who was a long-time regular at Eastleigh and has done a pretty solid job over the last couple of seasons for Scunthorpe. Danny Whitehall, who scored 21 goals this since joining Scunthorpe back in 2023-24. So yeah, he's another one to keep your eye on. He's a good, prolific goal scorer, Danny Whitehall. Joe Rowley, team, he did well with Fylde, got them promoted last season. So yeah, that would be yeah, I think in terms of, you just look at some of these names, they're big names at this level. And the question is, do they have enough final day to actually manage to get them through? We've talked about Chorley. I'm going to say that this is going to end a 1-1 draw and for Scunthorpe to win on penalties. Kidderminster Harriers versus Buxton. On to Kidderminster Harriers, former Football League team. They got relegated last season, having been promoted the season before. They're potentially going to end up a bit of a yo-yo team. Phil Brown, of course, as a manager, hugely experienced manager. If you know about Phil Brown, you'll know that he is a good manager from historical periods. He was manager at Derby from 2006 to 2010. Manager Southend 2013 to 2018. They're the two notable spells I can think of. I mean, with Derby, he wasn't the greatest manager in terms of in his spell at the club. It was his team, however, which well, I don't think he was the greatest one at Derby. Let's put it that way. But I think George Burley was a slightly better team. But yeah, I think it was at Hull, where he really made his name, getting promoted from the Championship to the Premier League and spending a fair few seasons at the Premier League before moving to Preston. I mean, he's had a very prolific career over his managerial career, Phil Brown. I mean, he deserves a video unto himself. You've got players that are experienced. Alex Penny was here last time, but they were promoted from this level. You've got Caleb Richards, who was also with them last time. They got promoted. So both of them back two two of the back four very experienced. Paul Downing is 33. He's fairly experienced. He did, if you remember him, back at Walsall back in 2012 to 2016. Was a very good player back with them. Luke Summerfield as well. Seems like I mention him almost every season. It was at SC Halifax Town from 2020 to 2024 and Wrexham before that. He's certainly a very experienced player now, having been around the block for a while. You've got Ashley Hemmings. One of them, he's made 209 league appearances for Kidderminster since joining in 2019. They've retained a lot of their core squad. That's what I'm talking about at this moment in time. So it could potentially be one of them things. I'm going to go a 2-2 draw because I think Buxton could be quite spirited, but I think in front of goal, Kidderminster win this one on penalties. I think in the final, it's going to be at Scunthorpe United's ground, which I do think gives them the edge. It's going to be a packed-out Glanford Park, 2-0 win for the Iron, providing something to cheer about for Scunthorpe, who have had a lot of misery recently concerning potential loss of jobs at their iron foundry. So yeah, Scunthorpe United to return to the National League. And maybe this is a start of a bit of an ascendancy. On to the National League South, we've got Boreham Wood hosting Dorking Wanderers. This is an interesting one. Both of these teams were in the National League last season. We know that Boreham Wood were a team who was constantly kicking around in the National League for some time and had that really good run last season, I think it was. Was it last season? A few seasons back when they managed to go and play against Millwall, and the times that they... it was in 2021-22, wasn't it? They reached the 5th round of the FA Cup, beating AFC Wimbledon and AFC Bournemouth when they were in the Championship. That's an interesting one, eventually losing to Everton, of course. And they were in the playoffs in 2022-23. So they've it's been very strange, the fact that they've dropped down to this level. So you would sort of suspect that they would do an all right job. You've got people like Josh Hare, who did a great job with... sort of has a lot of experience from the league above. In the sense he's spent a lot of time in the National League. He can provide that sort of needed experience. Same with Jack Payne, who similarly has spent the last 5 or 6 seasons or so in the National League. So they're sort of very mid-table National League team players. You got Nathan Ashmore has been around for an age at it seems now at Boreham Wood 6 years now, or 6 seasons rather. Tyrone Marsh has had 150 appearances since joining Boreham Wood in 2021. So a lot of that experience. Kwesi Appiah, now that's a name from back in the day. If you remember, he's made 7 appearances for Ghana. Was a Crystal Palace Youth Academy and had like a ton of loans within like 3 seasons. But yeah, I think it's one of them things that, I think they're a team to not be messed with at the moment. And of course, their manager, Luke Garrard, sort of has had quite a good success rate at the moment. Since coming in, and he was originally Boreham Wood manager back from 2015 to 2024. I think he's a bit of a Boreham Wood legend, having also been a player for a great many seasons, and I think he has cemented himself as worthy. It is a question now of whether they can take on Dorking Wanderers under Mark Wright, who is also the owner of Dorking Wanderers. It's an amazing story, Dorking Wanderers. It really is, how they were taken from basically a tier 11 team or something like that. They were basically playing village football to being a team that were, well, let's face it, a team that's were in the National League last season. And really, where is their ceiling? They did get relegated last season. And what I like about them is they do tend to bring in quite a fair few youngsters into the club. So, I mean, several of them may be quite obscure to some. I mean, a player that some people will know is Tony Craig. He is 40 years old now. I mean, that does book what I've just said, but he's an outlying sort of thing. He's made 80 appearances for Dorking Wanderers since 2023, so he's clearly still very fit, and is one of them players who has experienced the highs and lows. He's had 2 League One playoff victories in 2010 and 2017. With Brentford, he was a second place promotion, finishing in League One back in 2013-14. He's been phenomenal with Dorking. I think Tony Craig, for me, is certainly someone to look out for. And he's not even captain. That honour goes to Charlie Carter, who is a player who is on fire, really. He scored 14 goals in 38 appearances this season as a midfielder, bearing in mind. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to back Dorking Wanderers to win this one by a narrow 1-0. Worthing versus Maidstone United. All of these teams, it's so hard to pinpoint that. They've all been so good this season. Hence why we're all in the playoffs, I suppose. You've got Chris Aguta, who, must be said, has done a phenomenal job with almost overachieving with Worthing. I don't think many names would particularly ring a bell with many people. Like, a lot of them are just sort of bog standard National League South players. Really, I mean, I'm struggling to see any names that I actually realistically recognise at the moment. And that's saying something, Like, I just think, I mean, Glenn Ray, if you remember him from Luton Town, that was, he made 174 appearances for the Hatters between 2016 and 2023. So I suppose he's a player to look out for Worthing's team. Certainly an interesting one. I mean, Liam Nash, relatively recently arriving at Worthing, has scored 5 goals in 8 appearances for Worthing, having moved from Hornchurch, where he scored 71 goals in 137 appearances. So he could certainly get himself on the score sheet. I think, Liam Nash, don't think anyone expected him to be the dark horse that he's proven to be. It's a very shrewd acquisition. Oh, and a return of fan favourite, of course, Lucas Covalon, who played for Worthing from 2017 to 2019 before having not really distinct playing career in the Football League with Port Vale. But yeah, he's played for Maidstone as well, so maybe has a little bit riding on that one. But yeah, very much a team which have punched above their weight this season. I mean, they did finish in the playoffs last season, but I think most people maybe thought that was a bit of a fluke. Got George Ilokobi, who is the manager of, or Ilokobi, who is manager of Maidstone at the moment. Bit of a legend at Maidstone, I suppose, now. He played his final 3 years of professional football at the club and is now manager since 2023. Took them on an amazing FA Cup run last season. Let's not forget that was something else. They were the first team outside the top 5 divisions to reach the 5th round of the FA Cup since 1977-78, with Blythe Spartans doing it then. They are certainly a team that I think have got quite a high ceiling at the moment. Wasn't that they've been a bit of a yo-yo team over the potential last few seasons, and I think you look at it, and they definitely have a good team on paper. You got the experiences of Shaq Colthurst, who, he did all right with Barnet. I seem to recall him for a fair few seasons back then. You've got I mean, again, a pretty overachieving team potentially. Overall, Sam Cornet's been around for a while at Mason, made 115 appearances for them. Charlie Seaman, he made 31 appearances for Doncaster Rovers. He was maybe one of them things that maybe an big thing at Bournemouth, but never really quite translated to it. Let's be honest. But yeah, I think I'm waffling a bit here. I'm going to Mason to win this one 2-0. Torquay United will then be hosting Dorking Wanderers at Plainmoor. I imagine Neil Warnock to be in attendance. Let's just say that Torquay are a team that I think a lot of people have money on to be promoted. The team that finished second in the overall season. Paul Wootton as manager. He did a great job with Truro, taking Truro from basically the Southern League to the National League South, and has just sort of given his team. His team seems to be doing well wherever he touches. At the moment, just seems to turn to absolute gold. And you also got to see teams like players like Dean Moxey. Now, remember Dean Moxey? He's been at Torquay now for the last 5 years. And yeah, he used to play for Derby back in the 2009 to 2011, was a Derby County player. And was a relatively young player at the time and sort of didn't quite reach from heights. He went to Crystal Palace, made 91 appearances, and then sort of just gradually regressed from that peak. So yeah, Dean Moxey was one of the players, which very good player. I mean, you have like Omar Musa, who has made 3 appearances for Burundi's national team. Is Jay Forston? Well, he did all right with Taunton Town, earning promotion with. Well, he earned promotion from National League South last season with Yeovil Town. I think is one of the important things. We also earned promotion with Taunton Town back in 2021-22. Ofrande Zanzala, hey, he always appears at least once a season on my radar. Came through Derby's academy and then has been the most wandering man since, to be honest. He found himself at Torquay United now. Not just thought it'd be interesting to see how he's now kicking around here. But yeah, very interesting. Anyway, how do I think this one's going to go? I think Torquay do win this one. 1-0, it's home advantage. Yeah, Eastbourne Borough is the final team we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into. This is sort of slightly on the coof because I've didn't actually plan to say anything about these in depth until today. Adam Murray, the manager of Eastbourne, he came through Derby's academy, made 54 appearances for the Rams between 1998 and 2003. He's one of our own. Just had a all right managerial career. Started off at Mansfield, then went to Boston, had a bit of a break with a couple of caretaker spells and filed, and now recently Eastbourne. Yeah, I think he's done all right for himself since playing. And he's certainly one with maybe an eye for detail. So does a lot of sports psychology sort of things and has a real affinity with young players. And he's almost a bit like, the Dutch model of football, that sort of intricate passing and slow build-up. And he sort of made it work in non-league. I mean, it's not surprising when you've got some of the caliber that Eastbourne can really drive onto. I mean, just looking now, you got experience like Moussa Diarra. Got players like Ollie Kensdale, spent 3 seasons at Southend, making 103 appearances. Alfie Pavey, I don't think he's someone who's definitely spent a fair few years now kicking around that National League South sort of level. So yeah, he's certainly one of this sort of that level of footballer, So yeah, I just think It'll be interesting to see this one. I think this is going to go narrowly Eastbourne's way. 1-0 to Eastbourne at Priory Lane. It'll be great to see. Okay, it takes a really tasty final. It's actually, I think, second v third of Torquay versus Eastbourne. I'd have to say Torquay do win the final 2-0. So both of the teams that I got predicted to win the playoff finals are teams that are going to be slowly progressing, I think, back up the pyramid again. Thank you very much for watching. Do tune in or get this video later, and it will have a comment with all of my predictions for the rest of the playoffs. But I don't want to meander on too long. But it's a goodbye from now.